Hello, and thanks for listening to this. This video is designed to help you understand what is all behind the financial initiative at Christ Lutheran in Room 211. And what I'm going to do is walk you through some of the slides that we've already shared at each of the church services here the last few weeks. And what we hope that you can learn from this is why we're asking for an additional investment from everyone into the financial initiative, and why we arrived at what we did and what the goals are. So hopefully you enjoy this. Hopefully it will be informative, and you will have a clear understanding where we're going when we talk about give because we are deeply rooted. So this orientation really begins with one thing, and that is, what's the goal? The goal is simply to retire our debt and then do greater things with our ministry. We are blessed with one of the most amazing staffs and one of the most amazing churches within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, with so many things going on, with so many ideas, with so many opportunities before us that we can do within our community, and we can do for our church itself, and for the Missouri Church as a larger part. There's so much we can do to help them. There's also more we can do around the globe. As a church this size, we can do more than we can even imagine. But what's holding us back is a very sizable debt. And if we can relieve ourselves of that debt, we can not only fix a lot of the parking problems that can help us grow on our own campus, but also we can reach out more and more to the community, to other nations, and to other churches. So that's simply our goal. How we're going to do this. This is really the strategy. And the theme is give because we're deeply rooted, really comes from the fact that we are deeply rooted in the faith, we're deeply rooted with each other, and we're deeply rooted into the physical campus that we have in the center of Lincoln. A few Lutheran churches are in and around where we are, and we see that being a very historic aspect to who we are, and we want to stay there. So deeply rooted in the Lord, deeply rooted physically. The goal is really two-part. We want to drive, or the strategy, I should say, is to increase special giving. Special giving is simply this: if the Lord has blessed you with something, a sum of money that has come into your life, we would encourage you and provide the opportunity to give a portion of that to the Lord and to the church. The other part is to increase regular giving. As we walk through some of the data that I'll share with you as a church, we could do better when it comes to our regular giving. So this special initiative, financial initiative, Give Because We Are Deeply Rooted, is driven by the goals and this strategy, or special giving and regular giving. But before you can do that, you really kind of have to outline something that I think many of us really were looking for in the church. And that is, what is the vision? We heard this time and time again as the LLB, and so we thought we would outline this for you, because it doesn't make sense to give more unless you understand what the church's purpose is and what's the vision. And the vision, can be, defined in a whole bunch of ways. But when you really think about it, it has to have the elements of something earthly, because the church is here on earth, and something heavenly, because that is the reward that the Lord has promised us. So let's think about this in this way. First of all, many of us kind of look at the church as something that is a transactional. We look at the church, we need a place to have our wedding. We need a place for a funeral. We go there on Christmas and Easter. Those sorts of things. Those are very much just, passive one-way involvement with the church. And what we want to be able to do is help everybody within the church have a more relational aspect. That's the biggest, broadest vision you can have, and that relation is not just with the people within the church and those around us, but it's also the relationship with your Lord, because there's nothing more gratifying when the Lord holds you in His arms through the good times and the bad times, and that is a back and forth relationship with the people that are within the church and the Lord itself. And simply put, that's our vision, to help everybody within the church move up this line to more of a relational aspect with the church and the people within it and the Lord Himself. And the way that is done is through all the social events that build those relationships with each other, and this church is full of them. And also the biblical studies that build on the relationship with our Lord. This is a church, like very few others, that have that that complement of each other, both the social aspect as well as the biblical side. And both of those together, and driven by our staff and driven by the leadership of this organization, are really designed to fulfill this vision and help every one of us become more relational to each other and to the church. So now that you understand the real vision of the church, let's kind of go through a couple financial facts. Because what we learned is that people within the church need to understand what is really going on, because there's some myths about what the church is doing with the finances or how financially sound we are and all those sorts of things. And we'll just say it right now. The fact of the matter is that we are not in financial straits. We're in good financial footing. What we're talking about here with this deeply rooted financial initiative is really to release ourselves of the debt so that we can do greater things, because few churches are blessed the way we are. Few churches have the joy. Few churches have the creativity and the resources that this church has. And, as the Lord says, for those who are much is given, much is expected, and that's exactly where we are. So let's kind of walk through some of the financial situations or the financial facts behind this financial initiative. Okay, first is right now we have almost a payment a year of $310,000. This is our principal and interest, and that is based on a debt of $4 million and some change. Now, we've been paying this down over the last few years, and here in November, we paid down another $60,000 to this. So we're making progress on it. But the important thing is that when you look at what we're paying, that $310,000 against this debt, we simply have a great deal of money going to a local bank, not to the Lord. And we appreciate the bank and what they're doing, but that's not what we need to be doing as a church. The other thing is that this $4.1 plus million in debt is accumulation of debt that we've been carrying for a long time. And yes, we've been prudent about financing it to the best rates of today, and all that is good, but this is where it's all come from. Everything from the elevator to paving 43rd Street to building, buying houses, the basement, the school, room to 11, and multiple other things. It's been accumulation of things. It's time to get rid of it. So that's that's kind of first and second of, how much we're paying on the debt, how big the debt is, and where it comes from. Those are a couple of the kind of the foundational aspects of the finances. The other thing is that many people do not understand what it takes to run this church. And simply put, if we all kind of think about it on a day-to-day basis, it takes almost $6,500 to run this organization on a daily basis. And you think about that, that's a lot of money that we have that goes into running this size of an operation. Not that that's shameful, because we are indeed managing it very prudently, but that's what it takes. And we wanted people to understand that this is no small operation. It is a large enterprise and a very successful one. One of the myths about the financial situation of Christ Lutheran is that many people believe that, well, we have all of these additional people here at the church, then we must be flush with money. While giving is indeed up, one of the things about this is that the giving per individual or per attendance is really dropping. And this chart here really kind of helps you understand that. So if you go back through the years, so starting with year 2000, our average Sunday attendance was 1,075, and our yearly offering was just a little more than 1.2 million, an average of $1,169. If you go to 2011, we've been blessed with so many new people coming into our church, almost hitting a 1,600 average attendance, Sunday attendance mark, and the yearly offering has indeed jumped up. But the average has pretty much stayed the same if you take the yearly offering divided by the number of people attending on an average Sunday. As you look at 2012, and this is an estimated number because we're just finishing up the year, is that we've run about 1,750 on an average Sunday attendance, yet and our yearly offering has gone to 1.8, but the average per attendance is really dropping. And the reason that this is kind of important to understand is that even though we're blessed with more people, and even though we're blessed with more yearly offerings, The fact of the matter is per giving is dropping, and with all of our expenses continue to rise. So with this, as it says here, while attendance is exploding, giving is only up slightly, and the giving average is declining, and demand on staff is only increasing. So that's one of the other reasons that we're looking at this financial initiative is to not only pay down the debt, but also to help us understand how we can drive and encourage more people to give on a regular basis. So as we were thinking about, all right, as a leadership team, trying to understand, can we, if we go out to everyone and ask, would you help us retire this debt? Are we asking something that is above and beyond their ability to handle? Is this church really available or able to do that? So what we did is we used good old Google, and we tried to find out, what's the median household income in Lincoln? And, Lincoln is blessed to have a really nice employment base with a very low unemployment. So we're all very much blessed by this. So you look at this number here, 45,000 and some change. What you're looking at here is a pretty significant household income, the median household income. Now, many of us are below that, and many of us are above that, but I want to use this number to illustrate really the point, and that has to do with giving. And many of us in the church, especially those longtime Lutherans, we know the term tithing. And tithing is really two parts to it. One is it's to give first fruits and to give 10%. Well, we're not doing that as a church. But if we said, okay, what if we can educate and get excited about giving that tithing amount of 10%, what would that mean? Well, if you do the math, if on average we tithe 10%, our budget would be almost $5.5 million based on 1,200 giving units. It would provide an increase in our annual church budget by about $3.6 million, virtually eliminating our debt in less than 2 years. And not only just eliminating the debt, but think what more we could do with that. So many Lutheran churches are struggling right now. Think about how we could help them. Think about how we could help fund and provide scholarships for preachers. Imagine what we could do in overseas. This is where you start to look at the numbers and you go, we can reach such a high potential that we're not doing now. And that's why we want to give, because we're deeply rooted. And then there's another way to look at this. We wanted to kind of bring this into light for people who, like all of us, live on a month-to-month basis. We get paid either monthly, we get paid on a bi-monthly basis, but we pretty much think about our expenses on a month-to-month basis. So we started to look at it this way. All right, so for example, if our current debt is $4.2 million, all right, and let's say we did an estimated number of giving units. Now, on the previous slide, I had 1,200, but I'm going to use the term or the number 800 because roughly those are the number of people in the church who give over $1,000. And if you divide that, very simply, that's $5,250. Okay, that is just dividing it out. What would be those 800 people if they would give that much more? What would that mean? But there's more to this. Okay, if you divided that by 3 years, which is really what we're looking at for this campaign, a 3-year campaign to retire this debt, the average per year would be $1,750. Now you break that down into, like I said earlier, the monthly breakdown of 12, that brings it down to the average monthly car payment would be less than the monthly car payment, which is kind of the point of this whole slide. Now, the average monthly car payment, surprisingly, is $378. And when you really kind of play it all out, we could retire this debt in 3 years or less for less than the average car payment if people would give at least this much more across the board, that regular giving. Now, how cool is that? How fantastic is that? So it answered a basic question as we on the leadership team looked at, can we retire this debt? The fact of the matter is that we can. We are able to do this. This is well within our means. And the way to do that was to help people understand that these are the needs, this is what we can do, but really not talk about the fact that we are hurting in any way, because we are not. What we wanted to talk about is if we retire this debt, how much more we could be doing for the kingdom of God. So to close this out, we're going to be having Pledge Sunday on December 9th. That doesn't mean that that's the only day. We're just doing this campaign up and through that time so that people can have an awareness and understanding and ask a lot of questions, because we're being very transparent about all of this. But Pledge Sunday is going to be December 9th and any time after that. And we'll keep the pledge cards around. And then next year, probably mid-January, we're going to start Financial Peace University, because the people who've gone through this, the Dave Ramsey course, really have been exposed to a new way of thinking, a new way of understanding the value of money. And many of those people that have gone through wish they had had this kind of education when they were coming in and out of high school, because it helps you really have a perspective on how to use money and how to benefit from the blessing of money for the betterment of the kingdom. So hopefully this was very helpful to you, and you have a better sense of where we're going, what is needed, the vision of the church, and the reason for this financial initiative, Give Because We're Deeply Rooted.